Hi friends, welcome back to our vintage kitchen renovation series. It's been a couple of months. We had to take a little pause for the holiday season to kind of crank out the holiday content. So I want to catch you up today on everything that we've been up to over the last couple of months because we have not stopped working on the kitchen. So the first thing that we're tackling in today's video is getting the ceiling medallions painted and putting up the new lighting that we chose for the kitchen. The fixtures as well as the ceiling medallions were purchased from Amazon, so I'll be sure to link them below. The ceiling medallions come primed, so I'm just adding a layer of paint. This is the same paint that we used on the trim. It's an enamel paint, so the ideal option for anything that you might need to wipe down and clean. After getting the little one all cozied up, it was time to get these light fixtures hung up finally. We've been using studio lights like the ones that I used to film in the kitchen for several months now. So very excited to get these up. These lights, as I said, were ordered from Amazon. I think I ordered 4, maybe 5 of them before I got 2 that didn't have the glass broken in shipping. So keep that in mind. The glass is incredibly fragile. Obviously, once you get it up, there's, not much of a concern, but getting 2 that weren't broken was kind of a task. The milk glass, I think, is just beautiful. I really wanted something that was fitting for the time period of the house, but also felt eye-catching, but understated. And I think these were the perfect choice for that.
Start here.
It's definitely been a balancing act to do all of this work on the weekends and still find moments to enjoy, as we've gone through the holiday season, and also for Jameson to enjoy his weekends as well. So, we're making time to do fun things, festive things throughout the holidays, and then also including him in the process while we are working, when we're able to. Obviously, he's not able to help with everything, but it's been really fun, and I think we can kind of all step back and look at the kitchen and know that we all had a hand in it, and we can all feel proud of that. These countertop sitting cabinets are one of my favorite things that we've incorporated in the design, and we're seeing these a lot in new kitchens. They feel very custom, very built-in. Now, RTA Cabinet Store had kind of limited options for them, so they only had them in 15-inch width. I think we would have chosen maybe a 24-inch if we could have, because we had plenty of counter space for that. But then the topper cabinet doesn't extend all the way to the back, so that was kind of something we had to know ahead of time, was to pull this cabinet forward and install install it into the cabinet below. Now we will use what's called a skin to cover up the side of that cabinet so you won't see the gap in the back. And then for the doors on that top cabinet, the only thing that they had available is a glass cabinet door, and I probably wouldn't have chosen that, but I've decided rather than making a new door for it, I think we're going to work it into the design and add some curtains on the inside of those cabinets to make it feel intentional rather than feeling like it was something that we just were stuck with. It is now November 3rd, and we are beginning the beadboard backsplash. So I knew from the get-go that we wanted to do beadboard in here. We have beadboard, actually the ceiling in this little pass-through has beadboard, and then our half bath down on the main floor also has beadboard. So I feel like it's something that's kind of original to the home and fits the character of the home. I also feel like we're getting a lot of high-end finishes in here, which are beautiful, but I don't want them to feel like they don't fit in the house. So I think this will keep it within the house's like original character and also kind of make it still have that nice like quaint feel to it, which I think is really important to mix that along with the high-end finishes. I don't want this room to look like it doesn't fit in the home, if that makes sense. I really had a moment where I wanted to do a stained beadboard as the backsplash. I really like the idea of that, but to get beadboard that's in like high enough quality to do that, it's pretty expensive. And one of the things that we knew was going to be a lower budget item is the backsplash. So as much as I love that idea, we would also have to find like a local place to get really nice quality beadboard, because the ply bead that we have at our hardware stores is not in any condition to stain. We're going to just paint it. Anyway, that's what we're doing today. And yesterday we were supposed to start, but it was pouring rain. So hopefully today, although it's cloudy, hopefully the rain just holds off today so we can try to get this all done and installed. And then I need to go and get some paint samples, because I have several ideas of different paint colors that I want to do. It's going to make a big impact and it's going to be a big decision. So I want to actually go out and get some samples and try them and really think on it before we make our final decision. The beadboard ended up being a project that was more difficult than we anticipated. I think had we installed it prior to doing cabinets or countertops, somewhere kind of earlier in the process, it may have been a little bit easier. I do like, though, that if we wanted to change it down the road, we would be able to remove it and that wouldn't be an issue. So that's kind of the benefit of doing it after the fact, but you have to be very specific about your measurements, get them all right, and you're making, multiple cuts to the board, and if one of them is off, you kind of have to scrap the piece, because if one's off, it throws the whole thing off. We did find that if you have to cut on the front side of the board, tape it. This is primed for paint, and that primer was chipping off. So we did end up actually flipping the board over and doing most of our cuts from the back side. But that meant we had to kind of mirror everything so that, once you put it upright, it's fitting properly. It just added another layer of complication to it. And then also our countertops have this OG edge on it. And so we also had to cut that profile into several pieces. And that was a whole art project in itself. we still have a tiny bit of beadboard to do, but I'm starting to look at paint colors, and I might be kind of throwing out a bit of a surprise here because I have felt so much like I'm living in a white box in here. And I know once the flooring comes in, it's gonna add the contrast that it needs, but I wanna add a little bit of color. So we're gonna do a muted green on the beadboard backsplash. I'm contemplating maybe doing it on the trim around the doors. You know, I already painted the doors. Yes, I could paint them again. It wouldn't be a big deal, but I want the trim, like the crown trim around the cabinets, to be white. I want it to match the cabinets. I think if I have some white trim and some green trim, it might start to look a little strange. Anyway, so what I've decided, because I'm not totally opposed to the idea, but what I've decided to do is start with just the beadboard, live with it for a little while, and then if I decide I want to go back and do the trim in the doors, I can always do it. Not a big deal. I'm actually getting the same kind of paint and same finish as we did for the doors and the trim for the backsplash. So it's a semi-gloss, and the main reason that we're doing that is because we want it to be wipeable. Beadboard, it's not great to get wet, so we do have to be really intentional. I kind of wish we would have gotten a bit of the countertop to go behind the sink. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use some trim underneath, and we're gonna seal it really good. But we're gonna use some trim where the beadboard meets the countertop. We're gonna use trim there. We're gonna seal it really good, and we're just gonna have to wipe it down every time we're using the sink. So, you know, if you're using this as inspiration, proceed at your own, you know, at your own risk with that. We also know that if in the future it's not working, we can pull it out. It's not a big deal. We did not glue it for that reason. We want to be able to remove it in case we decide we want to change it and do tile or something in the future, but this was an affordable option for now. So that's what we decided to do. Anyway, I went and got the samples from Sherwin-Williams. Now, these aren't going to be the semi-gloss that we chose because they don't do that for the samples. It's going to be in satin, so it will look slightly different. It'll be a little more reflective. It'll just make it so much easier to wipe down. But I am desperately waiting to put these samples up, and I wanted to do it on camera with you. So I have waited for 3 days, I think. It's been 3 days. It's not been that long, but it feels like a long time because I'm desperately wanting to get these up. I think Crownsville is maybe a little bit darker. Let's see. Yeah, I think Crownsville is a little bit darker, but they honestly are very, very similar. So here are the paint swatches. I went into Ace Hardware the other day, and the Benjamin Moore Historic Collection caught my eye. Specifically, this one, the Hampshire Gray. Let's see if I can, it's so hard to see on camera, and the colors never look quite right. But this is the one that initially caught my eye, and then I also was really liking this Gettysburg Gray, and it's so hard to tell that they have green in them, but they do. I'm just not sure it's reading right on the camera. And so when I went into Sherwin-Williams, I was originally gonna get these two, and at the last minute, I changed my mind and decided to get Crownsville and Hampshire Gray. So these two are the ones that I have samples of, and we're gonna try them on the wall and see which one we like better. So let's give it a try. And finally, moving on to the flooring. So most of you know, we found original hardwoods in here, and we were so sad to find that we were not able to salvage them. We initially wanted to like paint or stain this checkerboard pattern on them, leaving that wood tone in one of the diamonds. it would have added a lot of warmth to the kitchen. I think it would have been beautiful, but this was kind of our next best option, and I searched for months to find a tile, and this one I think was a new release from this brand. I was so excited to find it. It was much more reasonably priced than marble, and they had it in a lot of different color combinations. So for installing this, we are doing it ourselves. Highly don't recommend. What we did is we did a dry fit first to try to figure out where we wanted it to line up, and then measured that tile from corner to corner and made markings along basically, you know, kind of this T pattern, so that we knew exactly where each of the tiles would line up. And then we used chalk to create basically like this big diamond pattern around the room to get each of the tiles lined up to. We spent hours doing the initial like setting up of the layout, and I think it was well worth it. So we did not do a perfect job on the tile, but the tile is laid out really nicely. I think because we took so much time to do this, it was 1000% worth it. But we definitely learned some things along the way, and I don't think we'll be doing tile again, but here you can enjoy about 4 or 5 days of torture. As you can see, we started off very slowly and, you know, kind of getting a feel for it, working together rather than each of us doing tile, which we did end up kind of moving into as we moved throughout the room. But we were really concerned with getting this pattern to line up properly and for everything to be like nice and flat. And I will say, I think what we came to find is if you can put mortar down, you know, in a bigger area where you can place more than one tile on it at a time, you're going to have a lot easier time getting them level with one another, but you're covering up those chalk lines. So it's kind of, you know, one of those things where you really have to find the balance. I think kind of doing it slowly at first and one at a time helped. And then once we caught a flow and we kind of had the basis of our design lined up, it got a little bit easier. Okay, so it's actually been a couple of days. We are on day 3, and this is taking a little longer than we expected. A lot of these are just dry fitted, so they actually need to be mortared in. The majority of the middle is, and it's okay for us to like step on it now, but we're going back and gonna get all of this stuff fitted. It's an incredibly rainy day, so we are gonna have to wait to cut the last few, but we're getting there. We're getting very close. Now, just to give you a little glimpse of the grouting process, we won't make you watch all of this, but we worked in sections. Luke went through and grouted, and then I went back with a wet sponge and wiped off kind of all of the excess grout. We were told that you have to be really careful with this dark grout. It can stain your tile if you're not careful. Thankfully for us, we do have polished tile, so I don't think it was as much of a concern for us, but if you do use dark grout, that is something to be aware of. Okay, so here it is all grouted. We were grouting until about 11 o'clock last night. I will say, try to show you up close, the grout is supposed to be a charcoal and it's definitely darker than we were expecting. So we'll see if this lightens up a bit. It's sat overnight and it doesn't look like it's lightened up at all. It doesn't look bad though. I think it, honestly on camera, it looks even better. But I think no matter what, I'm so happy with this. Now we need to wipe all the haze off. We haven't done that yet. There's so much that I've packed into this video that I think it's probably about time to wrap it up. We're getting so close to the end of this renovation. I think we have crown molding, baseboards, and the vent hood that need to go in, and then decorating the space. But otherwise, we are so close to being finished. I cannot wait to share the reveal. I can't wait to be done with it, honestly. I'm ready to move on with my life and do other things, but this has been totally worth it. It has been such an experience, and I thank you guys so much for following along. So be sure you're subscribed if you're not already so you don't miss out when we do the reveal, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.